Welcome back. This is P, the Wayfarer. So, remember last week we were chatting about the dried rats? They look like something you used to put a curse on your ex, but they were actually just fan-made plushie. Well, that image actually stuck with me because while we joke about it that day, in Chinese history, the idea of curse doll is not funny. It is the trigger for the single most heartbreaking tragedy in the ancient world. So tonight, let's go from that weird doll to the real nightmare. I want to tell you about the very first recorded real-life tragedy in Chinese history that was actually triggered by a curse doll. It's called 巫蛊之祸, the Witchcraft crisis. Imagine waking up from a dream, blinking into the harsh, bright sunlight. That was the daily reality for Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty. The year was 91 BC. The emperor was a legend. He had conquered vast lands and built a golden age. But now he was a 70-year-old man. He would wake up, bathe, and dress for court, trying to be the strong leader he always was. After all, an emperor cannot be lazy. He has to be responsible for every decision. But deep down, he was in pain. He would often climb the high towers of his palace, staring blankly at the distant horizon, as if he were waiting for something, or perhaps afraid of something. The truth is, no matter how great you are, you cannot fight biology. As we like to say, we are all made of flesh and blood, and flesh must decay. It is the undeniable law of nature. And you know how it is when powerful people cannot accept the reality of getting old. Their minds go to dark places. They stop trusting doctors and they start looking for magic. The capital city, Chang'an, became a playground for paranoia. Sorcerers and shamans gathered in the city, selling spells and curses. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was toxic. Concubines, jealous of each other, would bury wooden dolls in their rooms to curse their rivals. If you hated someone, you just accused them of 巫蛊, which means witchcraft. The emperor, driven by his fear of death, would fly into a rage. He executed hundreds of maids and officials just based on these rumors. And right at the fragile moment, the emperor's family, the Empress Wei, and the crown prince Liu Ju lost their protection. Just before our main story starts, a massive scandal exploded involving the empress's family. Her brother-in-law, the prime minister, was framed for corruption and witchcraft. The emperor showed no mercy. He executed the prime minister and wiped out his entire clan. Overnight, the prince and the empress were isolated. Their political allies were gone. They were vulnerable. And that is when the wolves started circling. The emperor's paranoia got worse. One afternoon, while napping, he had a terrifying nightmare. He dreamed that thousands of wooden dolls armed with sticks were coming to beat him to death. He woke up screaming, drenched in cold sweat. From that moment, his mind was broken. He felt sick, confused, and his memory began to fade. Now enter the villain, Jiang Chong. Now you have to understand the dynamic here. The villain Jiang Chong was the head of the secret police. He was flashy, arrogant, and cruel. But the person he feared most was the crown prince, Liu Ju. Why? Because they were total opposites. The prince was a gentle soul. He was a follower of Confucius. He believed in mercy, 仁, and hated violence. He constantly overturned the harsh death sentences that officials like Jiang Chong handed out. To the prince, Jiang Chong was the monster who abused the law. There was already bad blood between them. Once, the prince's messenger accidentally drove a cart down the emperor's private road. A minor mistake. Jiang Chong arrested the messenger immediately. The prince humbled himself. He asked Jiang Chong nicely, "Please, let it go. Don't tell my father. He's stressed enough." But Jiang Chong, he laughed. He reported it straight to the emperor to show off how loyal and strict he was. The emperor praised Jiang Chong, but the prince never forgot the betrayal. Jiang Chong knew exactly what would happen. He thought, the emperor is old. Once he dies, this gentle prince will take the throne, and the first thing he will do is execute me for my crimes. So, Jiang Chong decided to strike first. He told the hallucinating emperor, "You Majesty, the reason you are sick is not old age. It is because someone in the palace, someone close to you, is using witchcraft to curse you. Find him." The emperor gave him the green light. It was the peak of summer. The heat in the capital was suffocating. Jiang Chong turned the city into a living hell. He dug up roads, tortured citizens, and forced false confessions. He sprinkled animal blood on the ground and claimed it was evidence of dark magic. Tens of thousands of the innocent people died in this purge. Finally, Jiang Chong brought his shovels to the crown prince's palace. The prince watched in horror as this man dug up his garden and smashed his furniture. And then, the setup. Jiang Chong tore up the floorboards of the prince's own bedroom. He reached into the dirt and put out several wooden dolls he had planted there. He smirked and said, "Look, the prince is cursing his own father to die." The prince was trapped. His father was miles away at the summer palace, sick and surrounded by Jiang Chong's spy. The roads were blocked. No messengers could get out. The prince sat in his room, terrified. His tutor, an old wise man, said to him, "Sir, remember history? If you wait for the police to change you, you will die a traitor's death. You must fight." The prince, a man who loved peace, a man who hated violence, was forced to make a desperate choice. He forged a fake imperial order and seized control of the palace guards. He hunted down Jiang Chong, and in a moment of pure, desperate rage, he captured the villain and shouted, "You slave! You have turned father against the son!" And he executed Jiang Chong right there in the courtyard. He thought that would end it. He thought, the liar is dead. Now I can explain to my father. But fear travels faster than truth. Jiang Chong's allies escaped, and run to the emperor. They lied. They said, "The prince isn't defending himself. He's rebelling. He is coming to kill you." The old line of Han roared. He mobilized the entire professional army to crush his own son. For 5 days, the streets of Chang'an flowed with blood. The prince didn't have a real army. He had to arm prisoners and civilians. They didn't stand a chance. Defeated and heartbroken, the prince fled the city. He hid in a poor peasant's hut. But when the soldiers surrounded him, he realized there was no way out. He couldn't face the humiliation. He couldn't face his father. So, the crown prince hung himself in a small, dark room. His 2 sons were killed. His mother, the empress, took her own life. The entire family was wiped out. The war was over. The emperor had won. But here's the twist that makes this a true tragedy. A year later, the emperor's mind cleared up, and slowly, the truth started to leak out. People finally dared to tell him, "Your Majesty, the dolls were fake. The prince wasn't rebelling. He was just afraid." When the realization hit the emperor, it destroyed him. The man who conquered the world sat on his throne and wept. He realized his paranoia had cost him the only people who truly loved him. In his final years, he built a palace in the city called Sizigong, the palace of thinking of the sun. Legend says the old emperor would climb that tower alone at sunset, looking towards the horizon where his son died, hoping the prince's ghost would come back home. But ghosts do not return. 3 years after accidentally killing his son, he issued the Luntai Edict, publicly admitting his faults. He changed his policy. He said the most important thing was to stop harsh laws and heavy taxes and focus on farming. He stopped the wars and started focusing on enriching his people. That is the story of the witchcraft crisis. It is a heavy story, I know, but I think there is still a valuable lesson hidden in this darkness. You see, the emperor's mistake wasn't just about politics. It was about the fear of being human. As he got old, as his body getting weak, he became terrified. He couldn't accept that he was no longer invincible. That fear turned into suspicion, and that suspicion built a wall between him and his family. We all get older. We all have days where we feel weak or insecure or afraid of losing control. That is just nature. But this story teaches us that we shouldn't let this fear turn into poison. When we feel vulnerable, the answer isn't to push people away or suspect them. The answer is to put them closer. Don't let misunderstandings fester. Don't let silence build walls. Life is too short to spend it fighting imaginary enemies. So, as you drift off to sleep tonight, let go of the paranoia. Let go of the need to be perfect. Forgive the small things, cherish the people around you. Because unlike the emperor on his lonely tower, we still have time and we are still here. So this is today's story, and this is P, the Wayfarer. See you in the dark.